Good morning, everyone. Today's Thursday, November 3rd, 2022, and we're here for a work session. As always, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Bob, can you please say please?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bob, and we have one quick announcement. As a reminder, early voting has begun for the 2022 general election. It is now underway throughout Suffolk County. Those interested in casting their ballot before Election Day on November 8th can do so locally at the Riverhead Senior Center located at 60 Shade Tree Lane in Accorbon. The hours that remain are today, Thursday, and tomorrow, Friday, from 12 to 8, and on Saturday and Sunday, November 5th and 6th, from 10 to 6. Okay, now for our first discussion, which concerns matters surrounding possible participation of the Riverhead and Calverton sewer districts in a program that I understand will save some money and energy and possibly even assist the sewer district along the way. And we have here Michael Reichel, our sewer district superintendent. Good morning, Mike.
How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Mike, I think we have it,
Yeah,
if that's what you're handing out.
yeah.
Yes.
What's the date on it?
2 pages,
11-2.
I'll always take something if you're handing it out, Mike. You say no.
Is it, Mike, how much is it? Is it 30?
No, we're actually saving money, we're actually making money. Okay. So what this program does, the sewer district and the Calverton sewer district signing on, it gives us an opportunity to recoup some of the funds that we pay towards our electrical consumption. The program, the way it works is because we're just such a large user of electricity on the grid, and we have huge generators at the treatment plant as backup emergency power. What is a program through New York ISO, and it's an independent, it's for like a load shed program, and we can be an independent generator of power to take ourselves off of the grid, not to push power into the grid. So what happens when the demand goes up, or they take a power source or a power station offline to fire up another one, there's a gap time in there. So they can't just power a station down immediately and power up another source immediately. So there's a gap in there that we would fill by pulling ourselves off of the grid and allowing it extra capacity for other users on the grid. There are other companies like us that take part in this program, and we get paid for doing that, and it's based on the amount of kilowatts that you curtail. So at the Riverhead Sewer District, we would be looking to curtail 600 kilowatts, and at the Calverton Sewer District, 100 kilowatts. So that's why the numbers are different for each of the two districts. So we got the generators would be run probably they're about a half an hour per event, and they're figuring about one event per month, as well as a test in the beginning and a test at the end. So we look to, for the Riverhead Sewer District, we look to make $42,392. For the Calverton Sewer District, we look to make $10,876. Now that can go up or it can go down. Chances are that it's going to go up because of the cost of natural gas continues to rise, and that's what they use for making electricity. This is also used for wind turbine projects, whereas the wind turbines feed into the grid, and the power stations then power down because they're getting power from the wind turbines. Wind doesn't blow all the time, so as they start to shut down, these power plants need to ramp up. They'll call us, take us off the grid during that transitional time of the wind turbines going down and the power station powering up.
So when you go off the grid, you're going to your backup generator,
Yes,
and you said about a half hour per month?
yes.
So it's minimal wear and tear on your backup generators, but it's probably also good. I know you test them every so often, but it's actually probably better to run them a little bit once in a while than
Well-
just a quick test, and, yeah, it's okay,
Yep.
until next time we need it.
What we do is, we run them once a week, and then once a month during that once-a-week run, we run it under full load. We test everything, the transfer switch, to make sure that everything completely switches over. We had a situation the other night, whereas we lost power coming into the plant, and you need to be prepared for testing your transfer switch and all your mechanisms to change everything over. So actually, we would be looking at doing this as part of our exercise program and include it as part of our exercise program.
Right.
So we're really not going to be running it that often, more than we are right now. We're probably, if we just ran this program and didn't exercise our generators, we'd be running it less than we're actually running it right now.
Mike,
What's the fuel source of your generators?
It is diesel fuel,
They are diesel.
and the estimated amount that we would use for this program is about $1,100 a year.
That's 1 gallon right now.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
thereabouts.
diesel's off the hook.
Yeah.
It's, and fuel
It's
oil.
crazy.
We were just talking about this. It's
Mike,
ridiculous.
I'm curious, what would happen if the generator would malfunction? I mean, it does happen at something
Right,
electrical, and I just want to see
Right.
what safeguards,
Dur-
a
dur-
backup.
During this program,
Yes,
then we just wouldn't be shedding load then, because we're not held to a minimum.
okay.
It says that in the contract. I went over the contract with Anne Marie, we called the vendor on the phone, we worked some things out for clarity, and Anne Marie was actually able to get the rental of the equipment down lower than it actually, and they were gonna charge us.
She's good at that.
They come in, they install the equipment on our generator, on our meter, and what it does is they can remotely start and stop our generator, or we can manually start and stop it ourselves. But the meters that they install, it's their equipment, they pay to install it, and then it just measures the amount of electricity that's being shed. Okay. So Anne Marie was able to beat them up a little bit and get the fees down. It was a $400 per month fee. She was able to get them down to $250 a month,
Nice.
just by asking. Doesn't hurt to
Right.
ask. So there's really no drawbacks to this. We've participated in similar programs where it was a demand response program through Enernoc, and it was a peak load reduction program. Whereas in the summertime, for the summer months, we would run our generators as they demanded us to, in order to pull ourselves off of the grid to avoid brownouts and blackouts, because again, we're such a big user. And we have the ability to do that. Not everybody does, because not everybody's got generators.
Mike, can we get a copy of the contract?
Yeah, it should be right there with you. It's a one page, if not. I should have handed that. Yep. There you go, Steve.
Mike, do you
Everybody gets one.
get a
This is not
report?
the actual contract.
Yes, that one page on the back is.
Oh, the one page?
That's what
And
we
what I
did.
will do is.
Oh, I see it.
I would need a,
Thank you, sir.
you would need a resolution authorizing the supervisor to sign the agreement. But I will do is I will have them sign the agreement first, so that you can see their signatures on it before.
Perfect.
Before you sign it. So, with the board's permission, I'd like to move forward if there's any other questions.
Yeah,
I don't-
one-
I
I have
don't-
one question, Mike.
Sure.
So do you get a report on how long the generator is running every month? Let's say it needs to stay off the grid longer, right? So then that would increase the revenue to the town,
Yes.
correct?
Yep.
And how often do they report? I haven't read the contract. Do you get a monthly
Yes,
report?
well,
Well, it's going to be a quarterly report.
Quarterly? Okay,
Yes.
Thanks.
Because that's how they pay, every 3 months they pay.
Well, great, and thank you for even, identifying this opportunity.
Sure.
Because it just helps the tax base, thank you.
Right, so Riverhead Sewer District, always on the cutting edge.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just to give you an idea, the sewer district spends $785,000 a year in electricity. Okay, so this 42,000 will certainly help a little bit, but, you know,
I have one last question.
Okay.
If it succeeds, are we able to up the amount of time that we get off the grid?
no,
Okay,
it's only when they need you to.
okay.
One other question, Mike, is there, just out of curiosity, is there a transmission station near the facility? Or a substation?
Not that I know.
I asked that because I'm just wondering if, I know I talked to you one time about, you looked into a wind powered thing.
Yeah.
If battery storage would be useful, like leasing some of the land for battery storage.
We
to
really don't
offset
have
costs.
a lot of land down there available for that.
Okay,
Any space that we have was kind of earmarked for the biosolids project. And it's really just the construction of a pole one for storage of
Okay.
the biosolids after they're processed.
all right, thanks.
So, but, any other sources of, you know, energy that we could generate, we'd be happy to. I was thinking about maybe restarting up the wind turbine project again to see if it was something that's still feasible in this market. I
I
guess
mean,
right
because-
now it'd be even more feasible.
Yeah, because they have vertical wind turbines we might want to look into as opposed to the prop, right?
Right.
Because of the regulations on props. Great, thank you, Mike. And really, I agree with Tim. You guys, you're always on the cutting edge. So,
And I agree with both of them.
Good job.
Always do great, Mike.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank
So
you.
what I'll do is I'll have Emery draft a resolution for the next Thursday's
All
work
agree?
session for the next town board.
yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Take care, have a good day. Okay, moving on to our next discussion. We have our assessors here, Laverne Penberg, Meredith Lipinski, and Donna Brown, to discuss Chapter 488 of local laws of 2022, property tax exemptions for our senior citizens with limited income and for people with disabilities. Laverne, can you please give us an overview?
Sure. This year, the law was amended to increase the income limits for seniors and persons with disabilities. The statute, as it was prior to this legislation, was $29,000 in gross income would allow for a 50% exemption, with a sliding scale up to $37,400, and you would get 5%. So the more income you had, the less exemption you would get. This now increases that limit to $50,000 for a 50% exemption, all the way up to $58,400 for a 5% exemption. So we have about 755 senior properties that are currently on the roll. And the amount of exemption, which I gave to you in the packet, that is off the roll because of that, was it's over $5.8 million is coming off the assessment roll for seniors. And for the disabled folks, that exemption amount was $856,000 of assessed value was coming off the roll. If you were to actually go to the maximum, based on only the 755 people that we know, your tax-based loss would go from 5.8 million to 9.7 million. It'll be a 65% increase in your loss of tax base. The problem is we don't know who else would qualify under this statute.
So you had mentioned, so is that 9.7 million include the disabled as well?
No, that's just for the seniors,
That's
because we
just
have
for the
we have much fewer, I didn't run it,
Okay.
I did run it on the disabled. That would go from 856,000 of exempt amount to 1,069,069, which is almost a 25% increase in tax base. But again, those are only the people we know
Right.
that are under the 37,400 that was in place for this tax year. So unfortunately, we would not be able to predict how much more tax base loss you would anticipate if you increased your income limit over the 37,004. Because those are all the people that we know now have an income of less than 37,400. They get a 5% savings. But the town is not at the maximum. The town is at 24,000 and
32.
and 32.4. The school district is at a different income limit. Every taxing jurisdiction has to choose what income limit they want to exempt from their tax base.
So, as per our conversation yesterday, right, you ran some numbers. If we would increase by 2,000 both ways and 4,000 both ways, what does that look like under the current scenario?
So if you went from $24,000 giving you a 50% exemption and went to $26,000 for 50%, the exempt amount went from 5.874 million to 6.6 million, which is a change of 731,000. Not really a bit, doesn't really move the needle that much.
So the public understands it's kind of like a shell game. You have one amount of money as all the taxes. And if we give discounts or benefits to a group of people, the other group of people left behind have to pick up the pieces and pay
Correct.
the extra money.
Correct.
So it's important that the public understands that. And of course, you would love to give discounts to seniors and handicap without a doubt, but we have to be mindful of how much it's going to put on the backs of other taxpayers too. And we have to find a comfortable level for that to happen.
Right, and again, as I said, we have 700, I think it's 755 seniors, because that's the bulk of it.
And that's current, we don't know what that would be next year.
Correct. We would have no idea to know how many more people would be eligible. Could be 500 more properties, 1,000 more properties, 2,000 more properties.
And we know we have a high senior population in the town, probably
Right.
one of the highest in the East End.
Probably, yeah. We have a lot of mobile home parks, senior communities, so.
And I don't say that as a bad thing, I'm just
No.
pointing out
And
that
just so you
that's-
know, that if somebody takes an IRA distribution, and I've seen this in the tax returns, we just mailed out our renewal applications, try to get a jump on it, that somebody can take an $80,000 IRA distribution, and we don't consider that income. So if they only had Social Security in their IRA, they could get half off, even though they have an $80,000 IRA.
When you say we don't consider that income.
New York State does not
that's-
consider an IRA distribution
Okay.
income, even though the IRS does. So IRS rules and real property tax law rules are vastly different.
How about a 401K?
If it's not an IRA distribution, we take that as income. So that would be on a pension and annuity line, something like that. But if it's in an IRA situation, the state does not consider that to be income, even though the IRS does. So it'll show up, they'll have, income of, $90,000, but we don't take the IRA, but we take the total amount of Social Security and not the taxable amount. So
Laverne,
it's
but a
broken.
401K is different. How does that apply?
I don't know what line it would appear on a tax return, or we could ask our financial administrator where a 401K distribution would appear. Would that be a pension or annuity? An IRA distribution, a 401K distribution appears on what line on the tax code?
Bill, why don't you come up so the public can hear you? You need to come up so the public can hear the answer.
Sadly, we've become accountants in our office, attorneys, accountants.
Yeah,
Good morning.
good morning. It appears on the same line with other pensions, but then you have to break it out and look at the schedule to see whether it's a 401K or a deferred comp or something of that nature.
But if it's on line 5 and not on line 4, which is an IRA distribution, it's just really line 4, and we have accountants, sadly, that are merging IRAs and 401Ks and pensions on the same line. Even though it shows up as taxable, we need to, differentiate the two. And we've had situations where the accountant puts it on the wrong line, and we take that entire line, and then the person says, oh, no, that's an IRA. We get the 1099, and now we have to do a correction because we thought it was income. And we've told the people, tell your accountant, you have to separate that. It's very important. The fact that it's taxable is great for IRS purposes, but for real property tax, we need to see the differentiation. So we've made that, we've asked for the 1099s, and we've actually, people went from having no exemption to having 50% off because the IRA was put on a pension line.
So Bill, does next year's budget reflect this loss of revenue?
It won't affect next year's budget. This is due, if I'm correct, on March 1st for the tax assessment date for the 2024 budget. So if that reduces whatever percentage of the assessed value, then, as Tim said, that's going to increase the burden on the rest of the assessed value.
It's something that we'll, when we start the budget, we'll have to address.
Any change will affect next year's tax rate.
So, another question, what is the state doing about this? How do they weigh in on this IRA not being amortized into the total income for the year? And so that we can,
Well, they've issued an opinion on that why they consider it not to be income. I don't have that in front of me, but I could certainly give it to you. But I always find it interesting when the state passes legislation, and I gave you the legislation. When you look at the fiscal implications for state and local governments, none to the state. However, this bill might result in a loss of revenue for local governments.
that's, how interesting is that?
It's not, so it becomes not a mandate because it's a local option, but they write the check and then the towns have to cash it, so that's just, it's the way that it is with exemptions, you know, they pass it and then it's up to you guys to decide if you want to do anything. You have to choose what's called M, the letter, which is the basis for the sliding scale, and our M right now is at 24, and then there are these increments for, it goes from 50%, 45, 40, and each increment is 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and 900, 900, 900, 900. So if you decide that you're going to increase the income limits, you have to determine what your base is for the maximum for 50%. You're at 24 right now, and the law allows for 50%.
And how long do we have to make that decision?
You have until March 1st, so
Okay.
that's why we haven't heard anything from the school districts. All the school districts were informed. We haven't heard anything from the county. I heard that they weren't, I think they're a little busy, tied up right now with some other issues. They usually adopt the, you know, whatever's out there because they don't get the bulk of their revenue from the property tax. They get it from sales tax, mortgage reporting, fees, other things. But the bulk of your budget is paid by the property tax. Do you know what percentage? 70, 80% of your
40, 60, about 67%.
is paid by the property tax?
Yes, about two-thirds.
Wait, I didn't hear that one. What did you say, Bill?
How much of your budget is paid by the property tax as opposed to state aid, other revenues, and things that offset that? I thought it was higher.
So what, you belong to a state association, right? Don't you? Okay. So what does the association feel about this?
There's nothing we can say or do. It was really modeled on values in New York City and Westchester, because this is a huge jump from anything we've ever seen before. Usually it's been like $1,000 increment or very small. They haven't done anything in a number of years. So there's nothing we can do. You know, the legislature is going to do what they want to do, and it's an election year.
But does your organization lobby for anything, or do you have?
Oh, on different measures, sure. I mean, we can talk about some of the other issues that are before us, like the solar valuation model we have to deal with, and other issues like LIPA that we have to deal with.
Understood.
So that one is personal to Long Island. But the solar issue definitely has a big impact on this town. And, but that's for another day. We're not-
Yes.
Okay.
We're not here for
Right,
that.
that's not-
But, you know, we can do our best to try to, you know, advocate for or against legislation that's not, we don't think in our mind is appropriate.
That's where I'm going
Yeah.
with this.
But again, you know, they have paid lobbyists upstate, and
That's right.
we don't.
Okay.
I think the issue with the IRA, looking back, is that people who put money into those accounts, it's already taxed.
No, if you put money into an IRA, if you do it pre-tax, you pay no tax.
If it's a traditional IRA, it's not taxed. If it's a Roth, it's taxed.
Right, the Roth.
Right, so
Okay.
the Roth is taxed when you put it in, not taxed when you take it out.
Take it out. Yeah.
Right. I can get you the opinion if you you want to see why they don't consider IRA distributions income for our
That'd be
purposes.
interesting to read.
The other problem we just found out, and we're trying to figure out how the state can help us, is that somebody had a non-taxable pension, and the accountant did not list anything in line 5A, so 5A and 5B were blank, and the pension was $44,000 plus his Social Security. We had no idea, and he's been getting, the couple has been getting a discount all these years, but it's a non-taxable pension. It doesn't show up on a tax return. And so we have no way of knowing that somebody has a non-taxable pension, like a firefighter disability New York City pension. So we were giving this exemption and looking at a tax return, and it was blank.
Well, there is a worksheet to fill out if it's a non-taxable because it's a New York State pension. And then they get a $20,000 exemption if it's an IRA or something. So that's on a worksheet. If you never include it in the return and didn't fill out the worksheet and just show the front page is zero, then you're never going to know.
No, and that's problematic, and I was gonna ask for an opinion, if accountants around the state of New York are supposed to put in that they're getting a non-taxable pension, like 5A should be X, but 5B is zero, are they required to put in 5A? Because we were given this exemption, and it was very disturbing when we found out that he had a non-taxable pension.
How'd you find out?
The spouse died, and she gets half of the pension, and we asked for all the documentation, and it said that she was getting half of his $44,000 pension, so that made us very disturbed, because the state of New York, one group doesn't talk to the other. We don't know that people are deceased when the town clerks are sending out death certificates to the State Department of Health, and Tax and Finance is not talking to the Department of Health, so we don't know that people are deceased until something comes up and the property is sold and they died 2 years ago. But the State Department of Health knows that they're deceased, and we're still granting a veteran exemption, our basic star. And we have no way of knowing, there's no renewal for that. So our hands are tied when we're trying to do our job, and the state, so they gave a deceased list, people they know are deceased because they put it on their tax return. Oh, so-and-so's deceased. If you don't file a tax return, we're not gonna know.
Right.
So then they said, all right, we'll give that deceased list to the county directors, but the assessor can't see it. So then they changed their law, and they said, all right, we'll send you that list of people who are deceased. We could ask the director for the list of people who are deceased. Why just not give it to us so we can do our jobs? We're the ones administering the exemption. Very frustrating, to say the least.
Have you spoken to the other East End towns to see what their thoughts are on this, or what they're planning on doing? Do you have any idea what?
I heard that a couple of towns aren't doing it, but I don't want to put that out there.
Okay.
That's up to them.
Understood.
But I've heard, and I haven't heard anything from the school. I heard the county was not doing it, but again, I don't know till hearsay.
Okay.
But you guys have to make a decision based on what we have within our borders, and
Which is an unknown.
it's an unknown. It's a very big unknown.
Can we adjust the age?
You can't do anything but
Participate.
adjust the income limit.
Okay.
This is statutory, the age is 65. And as people are aging, more and more people will possibly be eligible. Those are just some of the challenges we have. Any questions?
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Always the best of knowledge. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Thank you, Meredith.
Tough decision to make on this one.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, for our next discussion, we have Dawn Thomas, our CDA Director, and Deputy Town Attorney Danielle Hurley, here to discuss a possible collaboration with Sufa Sign Company for an electric wayfinding sign near our town square. And do we have that on? Yes. Okay, perfect. This sounds like a really interesting topic, and Danielle, did you want to take the lead on this for us?
So I can just kick off the first part.
Okay.
We had a grant in 2014 for wayfinding signage through Suffolk County Downtown Revitalization. And so just interesting because we have, as you remember, put in a bunch of wayfinding signs downtown. We designed them and placed them with bid, and they're there, and then things started to happen downtown where we weren't 100% sure, what was going where, when we were changing the parking regulations, so we sort of held off thinking, well, we don't want to put these signs up and then have to change them or move them. So just in the interval, we had, heard about, seen, and thought about electronic signage because, for instance, you could have a downtown app like the BID has, and that could connect you to different parking, and the parking for events could change. So for instance, this lot might be normally a 2-hour lot, but for an event, we may make it an unlimited lot. So we started thinking, oh my goodness, how we really should be thinking about this. So in that discussion came the SUFA sign idea, and this, we have the funding to cover the cost. We thought it would be good to start with one, just to see how we like it, and whether it works for us. And so that's what we're here to talk about, and I don't know if you want to talk about any of the parameters of the agreement.
So, the one SUFA sign, we have a 70-30 split on the screen time. So SUFA gets advertisers to join, they take care of all of it, it doesn't involve us. And they put those ads 70% of the time, and then we negotiated to have 30% of the screen time, which we can use for our events and for all of our uses. And then there's also revenue with this, and that split is 80-20. So we'll be getting 20% of the revenue from the advertisers that sign up with SUFA.
And those advertisers, we're gonna screen also to make sure that they're,
That's where I was
appropriate.
concerned.
Yeah,
So
for
it
us.
takes
Yeah,
over.
No cigarettes,
Yeah.
things like that. But the community calendar we can put up, calendar events or any kind of notifications, emergency notifications can go on it, stuff like that, so.
Have you identified a location, Dawn?
So we were thinking, put it in front of the town square for now, and in that discussion, we understood that we would probably have to either temporarily or permanently relocate it. And so Danielle was able to negotiate one free move
Yeah.
with, because normally they would charge you to move it. But it's solar powered. It is Wi-Fi, so it's just connected to the air. And
SUFA is responsible for insuring it. If it gets vandalized or
Upkeep.
damaged, they'll come within 5 business days upon our notification to fix it or replace it, so we just don't have a blank screen there or a vandalized screen just sitting there. We have complete control over, as the licensees, we have complete control over the content. So if SUFA puts up an advertisement that we feel violates our community standards or our law, we notify them and they have to take it down immediately within 4 hours. And so that's the way to protect what's going on the screen as well.
And it has a vinyl skin on the outside of the sign that we'll work with them to design. So it could be a map, you are here map, and identifying specific businesses. Downtown, that would be permanent, and then that screen would just be, circling or revolving with information.
Can we sell, an example would be if somebody wants to, put their name on there, Singer Restaurant hypothetically, right? They want to be on that vinyl skin, can we sell that?
We didn't discuss that.
We're entitled to a certain percentage of the space on the wayfinding outside, so that's
Okay.
something that we could ask them.
So somebody, a bank may want to sponsor, be a sponsor, that's just a thought.
Yeah.
Well, they could also pay for the advertising as well within the scrolling
Right, but we're
screen if
getting
they wanted
20%
to.
of that, and I don't know what we would get in the other scenario I just mentioned. Another question, what is the projected revenue? I mean, they're getting 80%, and what does the 20% look like? I don't see anything to give you any idea.
So once they recoup their initial cost, which is $1,800, then we'll be getting the 20% in terms of what that projected number may be. This is our first time with this, so we're
Okay.
unsure.
Fair enough. Another thing is that 30% of the time, who has control over that? So in other words, is our time gonna be like midnight to 5 AM? I mean,
No, I think it's of all time.
okay, so it's just spread out, just,
How does it work with the total number of these units that could go around town? In other words, I know you're talking about Town Square, but
Yeah.
I think also like if we had things in the Wading River Beach, Jamesport Beach, people could be aware of events that
Yes.
are simply taking place in town and it makes them go to town. I'm thinking Peconic Bay Medical Center. Unfortunately, we all many times walk around the hospital like killing time waiting for things to happen.
Yeah.
And so having something to read or to do something certainly benefits. So is the revenue based on whether you have 1 or 10 units in the town, or does that change?
I think we could negotiate that for sure, and they're very anxious to come here. They think that I think this is their first Long Island implementation. I think they have them in the city, but if it's something that you like, we were thinking, that we could put them at the train station, and in front of the new town hall would be another great location where people who were visiting town hall could see what events and things were going on. So yeah, if it works well and we like it, there are other companies too that we could, look at if we were not happy with this for whatever reason, but we figured let's give it a shot. It's a wayfinding sign, we can use the grant money to purchase it, it's $16,000 to purchase. It is, $1,800 a year for the, but we
It
hope to
is-
recoup that cost through the
it's-
advertising.
It's 1,000 for a year, 2 to 5 for
Okay.
the maintenance, and then 4 for a year. That's the total, 4,000 would be the total for the years 2 to 5, so it's 20,000 total.
So I'd be curious though, does the revenue change based on the number of units around town? And then the other question I have too is, with these units, these are obviously standalone units. Can one download an app and see what is on this? Do they also work by mobile phones? Can you tie into this? So if I'm sitting at home, I can read what's happening on my sofa sign down?
So there is a website, Sufa Talk will be the website where people can go online and create an account and be able to access this. We can definitely ask them if we have more units, can we have more revenue? Like Dawn said, they're very eager. They were agreeable to almost every negotiation point, because they're anxious to break into this, what they consider a new market for them.
I also think from an advertising perspective, I'm more apt to consider advertising on something that's gonna be shown in a dozen places throughout the town than one single place.
Yes, yeah. So,
Are these interactive? Are you physically touching a screen and moving? Or is it
No.
just viewing?
yes,
Okay.
just for you. There's something else. Oh, the other thing it does is, without taking someone's data, it collects, it'll tell us how many people pass by it. So it'll give us data and information relating to, busier times of day and things like that. So we were hopeful that might be of interest, but Danielle was,
Right, and that will be just viewable to us, and we made sure that any information will not and cannot be sold by SUFA to any third parties.
so, like Google would do. So you mentioned there are other companies that do this. Have you vetted those other companies next to this?
we talked to a couple of other ones. I thought this one was the best for us. I have the other one.
Well, yeah. I'm just-
And for a trial and for the cost, and they're, really, they were super willing to work with us, and it just seemed like the right one to suggest
Did you say 16,000 for one unit?
for one unit.
It'd be interesting to see what they charge their advertisers, so I'm not sure why, it doesn't sound like very much, otherwise they would just give us the units. That seems,
Well, if we wind up looking for more of them, I think we would want to talk about, a certain number of them would be at no cost to us.
and since the fact, and to me, if this is, they want to break into the Long Island market, we're in a position to really maybe negotiate further. It's just, there's no reason to say, well, we want 50-50 to start with,
Yes, I mean, we did negotiate some of that already, and they were, so
Okay.
To your point, it's good that they're starting with one, because you can still get another company, right?
we could do whatever we want.
Yeah,
We just, there's
if
no,
it's
we're
successful-
not married to anything, it's just,
And 2 years from now, this takes off, and there's a company who can provide better funds, enhanced funds for us, we can easily go, because we're only dealing with one company.
Is this a lease or a buy? At 16,000?
It
a
is,
license.
it's a license, so they own.
So they own it?
They own the physical unit.
I mean, I love, look, the whole digital thing, I think is great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it just has so much more flexibility. I just wonder about the cost, but
So what did you say with grants, in terms of what percentage could be this, of that 16,000, for
The
example?
whole thing will be covered with that wayfinding sign grant.
And how many would they cover then?
Well,
What's the
so-
cap on the grant?
We probably could do one more, but we didn't want to, we really wanted to test this one first. So, and then CDBG funding could be used in the future for this type of thing, because it is in that downtown area. So the low to moderate income area, we could use it, and we could perhaps look for more wayfinding, sign grants, or they just become part of the developer's plan to put them in. So we'll see how we go with this one, if you're interested in doing it. But, moving into the future, right?
Okay.
Just think it's intriguing where there's other places where there's a lot of waiting time, like Stotsky Park, between baseball games and other things and practices, and eventually outside the ice rink, where
Yeah.
parents are just kind of like,
Exactly.
what do I do for the next half hour?
Exactly.
These are things to read and
Yep.
to gain information, like, oh, I didn't know there was a show tonight at the
Yeah,
amphitheater.
exactly.
Or, whatever's going on at Suffolk Theater, or
Yep.
discounts downtown, or happy hour, or whatever it is
Yep.
that they want to advertise. We thought it would be a great, opportunity to have, we're building one sign, but it's constantly giving information versus just a static sign, which is what we have been doing, which are very nice and purposeful,
Debbie?
but
would they give Riverhead businesses a discount on advertising?
Well, we did ask them, we have in the contract that they are to prioritize local businesses.
With a discount or at the same rate?
we did not ask them
Yeah.
to reduce that rate.
I like it.
Yeah, I think we
One up
should
and
move
running.
forward. You agree?
And I like the idea of one of like Wading River, because sometimes there are things going on there that I
At
don't even
Cal?
know about, and it's,
Well, if you like them and we find places to put them, we can expand to whatever degree our funding will allow.
these are great outside
What's
the
the timeframe?
supermarkets too.
We want to get this in before the end of the year.
Okay.
So the contract does say delivery by December.
Oh, perfect.
The thing I would ask for future is the ability to move them and what the cost is. So for example, if we put one in Bayberry Park, and then what is it utilized? And then we said, let's go, can we pick this up and can we move it down to Wading River Beach?
Yes.
What is the cost for them to physically come pick it
So
up? And
that-
does Wi-Fi have to be available and all that, or is it satellite Wi-Fi?
So, they are able, so I believe it's cellular, so I don't think there needs to be Wi-Fi. In terms of moving them, we negotiated with them that we're allowed to move this particular sign once without incurring a cost, because we knew that we would maybe want to move it more into the town square at some point. If we wanted to move it again, the contract right now says that they would charge us for the cost of moving it, but that cost would come out of the revenue that we would be getting for that quarter.
What's the cost to move it?
What she said, 18.
I think it was just storage. Let's see.
But I mean, is it something if building and grounds goes and prepares a little concrete slab somewhere and they just hit the unit
They
up?
do all the install, we're not,
I believe it's just 4 bolts,
that's
really.
it. And I think if we want to negotiate in the ability to move them, then we would work on that when we work on the next contract.
Being
Right,
that they're
exactly.
counting pedestrians that are approaching it, it's a good way to do it, and it could be potentially to their advantage towards being able to state how many people are viewing you. So when you're selling advertisement, if you
Yes.
have it in a location that's not being utilized, all of a sudden we put one in the middle of Stotsky Park,
Yeah.
in front of the baseball fields, and everybody's passing by,
Yeah.
then there's a lot more visibility there, and so.
Thank you for that question, because that's where I was going with this too, because I look at, all year round, where do you get traffic outside the supermarkets, right? So, to have the ability, and Ken's absolutely right, it's in their interest to put it in, they want eyes, because that's how they sell advertising,
Yeah,
okay? And it's in their best interest to work with us to find them where they're gonna get the most eyes, and that helps everybody.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
it works for them and for us.
Great.
And the AI information that's being provided to you, the artificial intelligence on counting people, who's getting a copy of that information? Because there's protections.
Just us, and they're not
SUPA,
sharing.
And like I said,
Okay, it's good to know
we made
because-
sure that it won't be sold.
Right.
Yeah.
And they said it's not it won't take information off of a telephone, it will just count the person based on,
Okay.
I guess, the signal from the telephone, but they're not, we were concerned that, you know, we would, have that information for our marketing purposes and downtown, events and things, and then they, would not share it with anybody.
There are some towns that get artificial intelligence from people and their phones and the pings, and they're selling them, and that's becoming a big issue across our nation.
Yeah,
The right to
There's a lot of
privacy
that.
and not being
That's a
informed.
good point, though, because what information are they gleaming? We're just getting a number, we're just getting a count.
account.
But what information are they getting? And that's a really good point.
They said they only are getting a count.
They're only getting a count. Okay.
Well, they want to tell advertisers that 10,000 people weekly
Right.
use this
Yeah,
particular
absolutely.
sign. That's
Exactly,
what-
and then the other thing is when we're negotiating for another one, we'll know how many people are passing by it, so we can say, hey, this is gonna be, this is a very popular area, you know, we should not pay as much.
Yeah, good point.
Great, and it's covered
Yep,
funding-wise, so it's a great idea, it's a no-brainer.
Did they give you, like, with their experience, they're in several other states, right? Where they found, where they're getting the most eyes? Is it supermarkets? Is it beaches? I mean, have they given you any indication?
A lot of the ones that they have were like in cities.
yeah, downtown
that's-
sort of areas, you can see where they're kind of posted in this, but I think, there are a lot of people using them for public transportation information. So at the train station or the TOD, we should have one at some point, train schedule, bus schedule, whatever's, available.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looks like a great project. Thank you, Dawn, and thank you, Danielle. Our next discussion involves a topic that is very familiar to us, and just about everyone in this room has entertained this matter on and on. It concerns loose leaf pickup. Our highway superintendent, Mike Selesky, was asked to join us today so we can resolve this matter once and for all. Devin, is he here?
I don't see him, I'll check outside.
Do you want to give him a call? Was he notified?
Yes, by email and phone.
He was notified by email and phone. And he hasn't responded?
We don't know. He hasn't responded?
No. She just said he's been notified by email and phone.
Spot on, Ken, with those questions.
I think there'd be need for them to incorporate it into a phone app as well. So I could just log in and see
I
exactly
totally-
Can
what's
we
on
try
the screen.
calling him
Totally.
on his cell? On his work cell?
If I take out advertisement on there, then everybody else can see. It'd be kind of a what's going on in Riverhead.
Then they have more data to support what they're charging for advertising.
Yeah.
Okay, where are we?
Okay, so I think that we're
You
gonna,
just get her?
yeah, Eric, if you can come forward, and we have the highway liaison, Tim Hubbard, here, and I believe, where's Bill? So let's have a discussion on this matter. Our highway superintendent appears to be MIA right now. Tim, you want to take the lead on this matter?
There's not really any lead to take. We're gonna have the discussion we've had for months and
Okay.
years, and the highway superintendent has made his feelings clear. That's why I really didn't expect him to be here today. And he feels he hasn't been paid in his budget to do the leaf pickup for this year. And I will leave it up to Bill and Eric to explain how, or why he might feel that way, but why we feel differently.
Great, okay, thank you for introducing it, yep. Okay,
So I can start by telling you why I feel he has been paid in 2022. As we mentioned,
What's the dollar amount?
your voice has to go up.
he's asking his 2023 budget for $220,000 for this.
2022, he said that there was $25,000 allotted for leaf pickup. Is that correct? or
That's
not?
just for supplies.
He's saying there's nowhere else on his budget, so where else on his line budget does it say he's getting paid more than $25,000?
It's in the equipment that he's purchased for the last 40 years, the employees that actually do the work. So one of the numbers that he gave us for last year was for leasing this equipment that we're reimbursing him for from the general fund. The decision came down from the state during this year. We picked up last year, and every previous year it was picked up. And that's all included in his current budget, meaning the manpower he has, the equipment that he has, and every other expense that he incurs, from gasoline to run the equipment to repair the equipment. It's all in his current budget. What we changed in 2023 was we are paying him for the leasing of that equipment that's necessary, including gas and repairs and so forth, that's necessary to pick up the leaves, based on his calculation of the hours for each piece of equipment that he uses to do that function. So it's in this year's budget because we collected taxes in 2022 to fund those employees and all of those repairs and so forth. In 2023, we took it out of his budget, put it in the general fund as a revenue, and we're transferring it to him next year once the 2023 year is the taxes are collected.
So you're saying the money is in the budget for 2023, and it was calculated, built into the budget for 2022, for this year?
Yes.
How much was built into the budget for 2022?
So
From
that's a number that
2021?
was thrown around several times last year, anywhere from $250,000 to $400,000. And the number that Mike had given us for 2023, and again, this is based on FEMA rates for the equipment that he uses, and again, it includes gasoline, repairs and maintenance and so forth, and that's $220,000 for next year.
Part of the problem with this is that we agreed, and Mike agreed, to go by the finding from the state, from the AG's office, I believe it was.
Correct.
And that finding came out this year, in 2022. So we could not have budgeted the $219,000 for last year for this year, because that finding didn't come out until this year. But the way that they've been reimbursed for all the years that they've done it has been through manpower and equipment, gasoline, and everything else. So that continued on. The finding then came out this year, and both sides, us and Mike, agreed to adhere to the AG's answer, and that's where the problem lies. Mike thinks he should have another $219,000 right now to do this year's, and we're saying that that's already been appropriated in your budget years past, as it has been in years past, with manpower, equipment, and supplies.
And I believe
And
he's
next year, that money has been removed from his budget, but will be given to him, a check out of the general fund, I guess we
Correct,
would
yes.
call it. A check out of the general fund for the $219,000 to pay him directly to do it. So it's kind of 6 to 1, a half dozen to the other type of thing. And I've talked to Mike about it, and he just disagrees in how that procedure has been done and how it's working now. we disagree with what he's saying, so we're kind of at an impasse. I mean, honestly, he's not going to pick up the leaves if he doesn't feel he hasn't been paid or made whole for this year's budget.
So that's correct, and not only did we not know until this year, and it could not have been put in the budget because last November 20th was the deadline for the budget, but we also didn't even have a dollar amount, even if we wanted to anticipate that the
Correct.
AG was gonna say that.
Correct.
So the budget was the same budget from the previous year where it was included, and now we can affect it for 2023 based on this year's budget process, and we did. So
But he
for
couldn't
the-
even calculate an amount for you last year because he was not the highway superintendent. And he shouldn't be held to, whether Geo, how he provided his numbers, because we know that Geo's fluctuated from 200 to 400,000. I think that Mike and Anne Marie and myself worked a long time making the accuracy of, coming out to $219,000 as a realistic cost of
Right.
what, if we as a board decided in years to come not to perform this duty, we can save the taxpayers $219,000, or we pay the $219,000 and he performs the duty, and it's been separated. So going forth as of January 1st, what Tim is saying, the problem is fixed and solved for future use. If he does it, he gets paid. He doesn't do it, he doesn't get paid. But he also, what was big in his standpoint, from myself working with him over the last year, is that there was $25,000 in the budget. He already performed leaf pickup once this year, so he did it in January. And so, and the question is whether or not you're holding him liable for a previous year's budget under a previous highway superintendent. So he's saying, I came in January 1st, I was given $25,000 in my budget, and I performed leaf pickup once already this year. So if we're saying that it's cost us $219,000, there's your first $219,000, and then in his eyes, he's saying it's costing another $219,000 later on. So he has nothing to be added for his first round of leaf pickups in January. So, it is twice the cost this year. So how do we alleviate that?
With all due respect, he is stuck with the budget that was implemented before he came into office, the same way as the
It's
supervisor.
his duty and
is
his
stuck with-
responsibility.
The same way the supervisor of the town board is stuck with the budget that was implemented before they came into office. All right, and also he was the deputy highway superintendent before he became the highway superintendent. The leaves were not picked up by the previous highway superintendent in 2021. Now, the money that's budgeted for 2022, there was money budgeted for 2021 too. So the leaf pickup that happened in January of 2022 was really, theoretically working off of the 2021 funds that were already provided.
But a previous
So-
highway superintendent could have directed that money elsewhere. It's not as though when he came into office, that Geo said, hey, here's the money I didn't spend for leaf pickup last year, here it is, Mike. It's like, no, he could have spent it on
Are we suggesting
anything
that his
else.
people didn't get paid or that his equipment wasn't available? Because, it was, and that's part of what builds into that figure.
I
So,
think did you have a meeting with Selesky? I think there was
we've-
extensive
we've-
meetings.
We've exchanged.
Bill,
some-
can you
some
add to that?
emails, there's
I
been
think there was
meetings.
extensive meetings between the attorney's office and him.
I've had several meetings with
Okay.
Mike and with Anne Marie. And I know there were other meetings that I didn't have that Anne Marie also had with him. I don't know how many Eric was involved in. But
Where's
we've
Anne
had-
Marie?
We've had meetings, and these meetings.
Hold on,
were-
where's Anne Marie? Because I
She's
know she
off
worked
today.
extensively.
Yeah,
She's off today.
Previously scheduled today and tomorrow off.
Oh, okay.
and those meetings were for many things, was to come up to the number as Ken had mentioned, and how we were doing that, but also understanding that that was gonna be the function going forward. And as Eric had said, whether he did them in January or December, sometimes they do them different weeks depending on snowfall. So if it would've snowed in December, he did it in January, he's picking up snow and pushing off doing the leaves until January, it's a matter of weather. So, whether it crosses over a year, as Eric said, he still got paid, the people got paid, and he had the equipment available to do that. And that's the same thing in 2022.
So our office is getting a tremendous amount of calls from the residents asking about leaf pickup. I understand that he instructed his personnel at the highway superintendent to call the supervisor's office because he's not picking them up because he's not being paid. It's not the proper way to act as a public official, elected elected a public official, and he should have been here today, and I wish he was, so we can resolve this once and for all. I think we're gonna put it up for executive session, and we're gonna ask him, and the board wants to hear him. I think we should bring this before the public. Again, unfortunately, I was hoping that today it was gonna be resolved. However, there's obviously a no-show and no communication, and the residents want this service. It's a service that they expect, a service that they deserve, and there's too much time spent on this back and forth the last 3 years. We shouldn't operate like this as a town, and hopefully we'll see him next Thursday.
I have a question. So I'm confused. So you're telling me in 2021 in the budget, how much was allocated for leaf pickup for 2022? $25,000?
There wasn't a specific amount allocated, and the previous superintendent had thrown numbers out from 250, I believe, to 400,000. And he never justified that number. I'm not sure how he calculated it, but that was an issue because we had to go to FEMA rates even this year to get Mike to be able to determine how many hours he's using each piece of equipment, inclusive of gasoline and repairs, and that's where we came up with the number for the equipment. He has the employees. It's a matter of, as I said, what are they allocated to do? So let's just say last December, they were plowing snow instead of picking up leaves. You do that whenever, but you still have the employees to do that.
That's, okay, what I'm trying to get at, it's just numbers, right? So in 2021, you're telling me that there was a spread in the budget between $200,000 and $400,000 for leaf pickup, is what I'm getting, which is a huge spread. How much was allocated for leaf, you're telling me, so that allocation should be for 2022?
So I guess the only way to explain it, go ahead.
Yeah.
So it wasn't allocated as a specific function, the same way we wouldn't allocate snow removal as a specific function, right? It's just.
Oh, he gave you a range, okay.
No, it was just one of the duties that they were doing. This opinion that we got from the AG's office space is essentially, it refers back to an opinion from the state comptroller back to the town of Brookhaven in the 70s. And it basically says, refuse removal along roadways is not a regular highway duty, but a town board may assign it to a highway department under town law.
Do you have the opinion?
Yeah.
Can we get a copy of that?
Well, I think we've already discussed it.
Yeah, I know we did.
But,
I would have to search
I can-
400, 500 emails.
I can,
that we
I can
get,
certainly
so,
forward it again.
but also the reason I'm mentioning is I think we should put that online because it is part of the discussion.
Okay.
So,
And then, I'm sorry.
and that's what I was getting
Thank
for. So if you could send Devin a copy of it so she can put it online.
I get the range, Bill. I get.
Right, so, but the easiest way to answer that question is, we've now determined that the equipment portion is $220,000. The rest of it, he has employees to do that, so he'd have to tell us what the allocation, how much time those employees spent to come up with it. But the employees got paid for the full year, so if he took them off that and put them on something else, he was still paid to do that.
And that's how you're coming up with the 219,000?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it-
$219,000 is based on FEMA rates is what we did.
Yeah.
We calculated on what FEMA suggests these are the appropriate charges for use of equipment. What does a payloader cost?
No, I
What's its
understand.
wear and tear? No, just so it wasn't
sure.
like it was very meticulously calculated.
Okay, so where I'm still confused, if the money was allocated in 2021 for 2022, between $200,000 and $400,000, the money should be there for 2022, and that's where,
Yes, that's
That's
correct.
the argument.
It's
we're making.
buried in the salaries, and it's buried in the repairs and maintenance for equipment, and
I'm not, Bill, I really appreciate that you're drilling down to the specifics. What I'm just trying to get at is, I'm confused. Is Mike saying that the $219,000 is not there from 2021's budget?
there's not a specific line for that.
Yes, he's stating
Okay,
that.
that's what I'm.
The only thing that appears on his budget is $25,000 for leaf pickup, which used to be spent for leaf bags, and from what I understand, they haven't bought bags in years anyway. So Mike even said, I already performed this duty once this year, and he even said, the last time I talked before I was removed to as the liaison was that he was going to, he said, I'll even take the 25,000 off the 219, so I'll do it for 195,000. But I expect this cost for use of his equipment and diesel and operating, and he wants, if he's doing a second round of leaf pickups in his eyes this year, he wants to be paid for it. So last time we talked, it was about whether the town board wanted to allocate $195,000 this year, or we're gonna sit it out. I think that's really what we're up against.
Okay, so then it begs the question of if there was an allocation of $200,000 to $400,000 in 2021 for the 2022 budget, where is that money?
So I think I can only answer that with a question. And my question is, how did he do it in 2020 and 19 and 18 and all the way back? It was there already. We didn't take it away in '22, and they picked up
Nothing
leaves all those previous years. So I don't know where it is. It's built into it.
Well, yeah, okay, but that's where I'm going, like, how could we not know where $200,000 is, roughly, right? Because, and is it just a matter that leaf pickup, go ahead.
Is your question, what has he already spent it on, or are you asking us, where is it in that 22 budget?
If the money was allocated, it was spent, and the question is, what was it spent on?
It was spent on
Employee
salaries.
salaries.
Yeah.
And it was spent on whatever other function he did, let's just say in 2021, whatever other function was done for those 4-week
So
periods.
did he, so in 2021, did he exhaust the money that was reserved for leaf pickup in 2022 is my question.
He would have in salaries, he would have potentially in gasoline and other expenses that he used to run that equipment that we are going to pay him for in 2023.
Problem is, he never had a budget line for leaf pickup. And I don't mean him, I mean highway.
It just-
Never
I could-
had
yeah.
that for all the years that it was done. And now that the finding says that it's not part of their regular duties, but the town board can direct them to do it, and the town board shall have to pay him out of the general fund. So for 2023, that's exactly what's going to happen. Again, we just found this out a couple months ago, okay? So for 2022, he would be picking up the leaves with the money built into his budget for manpower and equipment, just like it had been for the past 20 years. So it's not like there was a specific line item in the budget. His overall budget had for manpower, or we provided manpower, and we provided equipment in lieu of a line that said, here's $219,000. We provided the manpower and the equipment to do the job.
Similar
So
to
we
snow
have to
removal.
We have to
Very
attach a
similar to
dollar
snow.
amount
It's
to
built
that.
in, the equipment, the personnel.
Okay.
And his stance is still gonna be that I've already done it this year. So if
Out
there
of
are money,
2021 monies, he
That
did
was-
it this year.
So again, that was because it wasn't done in 2021.
Right.
It's the leaves for 2021.
No, and that's a good
So
point,
the
though. It
leaves-
wasn't,
the leaves
it wasn't
that were
done in
picked up.
2021. Normally, it's
Exactly.
done right
Yeah,
in
but
in
he's not
November.
responsible, just as though we're not responsible for prior boards and how they expended money. He's not responsible for what Geo
Yeah,
did the
but the
year
manpower
before.
and the equipment were there for it to be done in 21.
And he's responsible to
Nobody
the budget.
removed any manpower or equipment from him for the 2022
So there should be
budget.
an excess.
So it carried over the same as it would have been for the past, the prior 15, 20 years.
So where's that excess? Where's that money? That's what I don't understand. I
It's been
understand
paid out
exactly.
already. It's been paid out.
You know what I'm saying? If it wasn't done in 2021,
In theory, his budget would have that money still in it.
in theory, that's
Right.
where, yes. And that's,
Got it?
and I'm not doubting or questioning, I mean, but
So we can.
What's left
So
in the
then the
budget?
option is take it from his fund balance, then if it wasn't spent last year, take it from his fund balance.
That's it,
The
and it could be
employees were
solved.
paid, but take the $220,000 that he needs for the equipment, take it from his fund balance and pay him from his own fund balance. Take money from 2021's fund balance and give it to him in 2022.
is he amenable to that? Does that make sense?
That hasn't come up, that did not come up in any of the conversations that I had with him.
I think that needs to be in the conversation, Eric, if you agree. If there's a fund balance there and from 2021, then maybe the money exists.
Okay.
How do we have a
can look into that.
conversation when
Can
he's
you look
missing?
into that?
I mean, Tim, as a liaison, did you want to present that to him, please?
I can, sure.
Yep.
I'll gladly present it to them.
Okay. I mean,
I can tell you what the answer's gonna be ahead of time, but I'll present it to them.
No, and I'm not looking to be, I'm just looking to see if money was allocated and where it went. And I understand now this year, right, for 2023, it's gonna say lead pickup, $219,000 or $220,000, correct? Okay, so it's clear.
It's fixed January 1st, but
Right, but we need to fix what's been broken since. If there's we need to look for a solution for that.
I'd say it's fixed once the leaves are picked up in 2023.
So maybe a better way to explain it for '23, and it'll help us to understand '22. There is a tax levy included in the general fund for this $220,000. There is a transfer, an expense transfer from general fund to highway. Highway's line still doesn't have one line that says leaf pickup, but there's a revenue in to fund the leaf pickup that he already has in his expenditure lines, being salaries and repairs and maintenance and things like that. And how much that cost during the year is $220,000 according to Mike's calculation for the use of his equipment. And again, the salary's already built into his budget. So I don't know if that makes it any clearer or muddies it, but that's how you would look going forward at the next year's budget, how
Well,
we
that's what
include
Ken,
it.
when he can work with them, that's what they came up with. This is what it's gonna cost. He knows what it's gonna cost. I understand.
Mike, if you're watching or listening, the last conversation we had is you mentioned you wouldn't come again unless you had an attorney. Just reaching out to you publicly, and I'll reach out to you privately also. I wish you would come in without an attorney, and we can sit down and work this out.
yeah, and that's gonna cost taxpayers more money. That's great. All right, so we're gonna conclude this, section. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bill.
Before you guys leave, so what?
We're in the
Oh,
open.
I'm sorry, I thought it was over.
No,
I
we're
apologize.
taping. Yes,
Then
thank you.
I'll step outside
Okay.
because I have questions for you.
All right. So, moving forward, everyone, this concludes our open session today on discussion items. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to provide a first and a second to enter into executive session to discuss matters surrounding a possible leave of absence for an employee with Mancini. Can I have a first and a second to close this
So
work
moved.
session, please?
So,
Second.
Second, great. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So moved. Everyone, please be safe.
I'll be right back. I know you.